Hi guys, Calvin here. Welcome to my first episode of 8mm Film Rescue. I'll be speaking intermittently throughout the short video here because I just want you to feel the effect of what it was like when people ran their 8mm films. There was no sound unless they had the more advanced 8mm cameras that had soundtracks on them. So what we're going to see in this first episode is footage I found at a yard sale many years ago, and it's the Checke family. And the Checke family, all I know from the reels and what was written on the boxes of all the reels was the mother, father, and the son. So Amadeo is the father, and you can see in that on the box there, Amadeo Checke and Francis Checke had a son, Roger. And in this first reel here, what we're seeing is their trip to Ithaca, New York in 1966. So I found about 6 boxes of the small 3-inch reels, and that one was the only one that had anything written on it, indicating a date or whose it was. Amadeo's name was on it. The other 5 boxes did have Checke written on them, so they were, probably Amadeo's also, and Roger's too. Maybe Roger took some of them later. But this is their trip to Ithaca, New York. And I don't know, maybe that's the buildings on campus of Ithaca. This is 1966. Roger graduated, it looks like, from Ithaca in 1966. And the one thing I love about film is that it has this dreamy quality that video just doesn't have. Film, just the developing of it, the chemicals needed, has a watery, dreamy feel to it, and a denseness. I guess, there's a word for it in the film industry, dense maybe. It just has a certain look. And of course, these grainy, choppy home videos are I think they're just great. That could be Roger there. It's hard to tell. Probably is, with the horn-rimmed glasses. And some other family members. I don't know who's who, but later on there's another reel that shows pretty much, I'm pretty sure it's Amadeo and Francis, the mother and father. Now Amadeo, I did a little research. It looks like they all settled in Orange County, New York. And because I did find their obituaries, Rogers and Amadeo's. Amadeo died he was born in 1916 and he died in 1988. So he was probably taking these films, most likely. It's hard to know who was actually. There's Amadeo's obituary I found. And he had some brothers and sisters. They came from Italy originally. And his spouse Francis. And there's Roger's the date of birth and death also. I'll show you a little of that later. But there's Amadeo. There's a picture of him on the left. Now this footage also, there was no date on it. And I don't know who these people are. It had Checke written on it, so it could be relatives. I don't know the dates on any of this footage. There's 2 rolls of this. I don't know if it's Roger, but on all the research I did on Roger, he didn't marry and had no children, but you never know. So this footage could have been taken in the 70s, early 70s maybe. And Roger, did get married, and that could be his wife. There is a picture of the father, or a man, I'm assuming is the father later on. It's hard to know where this was taken, but I love this footage. Camera work is pretty good, pretty steady. It's at some small lake. There's another one when the boys are older coming up. It's at a bigger lake. It looks like one of the Great Lakes because there's a big cargo ship off in the distance. This is what people did. This is how they preserved their memories. Back then, those 8mm cameras were very affordable. A lot of families had them. I like the ones with no soundtrack on them. Just the images. It's hard to know who these boys are. They're still alive, what their names are. This could be Roger here. I don't know though. There's no way of knowing. I hear the boys are a little older. Taken a few years later. Could be one of the Great Lakes here. Lake Ontario, maybe. Lake Erie. Or the St. Lawrence somewhere. I've been to the St. Lawrence. I know there's big wide areas of it too. So someone living in New York State would vacation there. Possibly. This footage had Czech written on it also, so it was definitely taken by either Roger or Amadeo. They were filming some shooting the TV maybe in the hotel room. No, oh, here the boys are a little older now. This was all on the same reel, so it looks like they kept the film in the camera. And just, let it sit, and then picked it up again a year or two later and start filming again. He's at another lake. This reel had check written on the box too, no date. It's just some kind of parade, freedom train. Who are those people? Where are they now? I don't know. Orange County, so that's still in New York. So it's definitely the Checke Family film. Some parade, maybe 4th of July. Yeah, there's flags, Middletown, New York, that's in Orange County. God bless America. Mr. Van Lever. You can't really date this reel because the vehicles in it are older vehicles anyway. If there was more modern vehicle, like a car of some kind, it's possible to figure out a date, but you wouldn't know. There's some vehicles there. Look like late 60s models. I don't see early 70s cars there at all. That doesn't mean anything. It looked like that was a Gremlin. I don't know when the Gremlins came out. I have to do some research. Alright, here's some Olympic footage. This could be 1972. Maybe? There was Olympics. Dwight Stones. Okay, yes. Yes, this was 1972. This was filmed. So Roger would have been out of college by 6 years. But again, who knows who shot this footage. There's the Gremlin. There's another unknown woman. I don't think it's Frances, because there's Amadeo's wife, because there's film of Amadeo and Frances going fishing. Pretty sure it's them coming up. This is my favorite one. This is I believe it's Frances and Amadeo fishing, and he's filming her. They caught some nice fish, pickerel it looks like. It could be pike. And there's Amadeo. That's definitely him. I could tell from his obituary, well, that photo when he was young that I showed earlier. It looks like him with the hairline and the ears and the nose. And this could be Frances. And he's filming her, she's filming him. At the lake somewhere. Who that is, I don't know. Another friend. It could be Frances, I don't know who's who. She got a bite though. She wasn't tending to her pole. Let's see what she brings in. There's Amadeo. God bless. It looks like somebody was into the moon program and the moon landings. There was just random footage here of shots of the moon. And the next reel after this, looks like someone, Roger, Amadeo, or whomever, was filming some moon footage on television. So maybe they went outside to see if they could see any astronauts on the moon or whatever. But this reel's interesting. There's a short clip in this which I love. It's of a baby, and they just took very quick footage of a baby. They just pressed the button on the camera just for like three or 4 seconds, and the baby's image just pops up. And I slowed it down just so it'd be on the screen a little longer. Yeah, somebody was just playing with the camera, taking random footage. Snow, car tracks in the snow. There's a baby. I love that image. It's so quick and fleeting. So dreamy. Dreamlike. Images of winter long ago. Gray. Cold. Beautiful. Ice on the trees. I own a couple of these 8mm cameras, and they're very rudimentary, a lot of them, especially the ones that, that were affordable for most families. Some of them didn't even have focus features on them where you could focus the image. A depth of field was pretty much set. You couldn't really change that. Basically you just pointed and shot, and what you got. The better ones had focus rings on them where you can, focus pretty well. But I've seen them where you couldn't focus at all. Some of the Brownie cameras, Kodak, Canon made nice ones. Okay, now this one, it said the final flight of Apollo. So that was in 1973, Apollo 17. So this reel didn't have a date on it, but that pretty much dates it. So it looks like Roger or Amadeo or whomever was just filming a television program. A lot of quick cuts. They were pressing the button off and on pretty repeatedly. Maybe Roger was getting his bearings with the camera because there's some interesting footage coming up. Well, it concerns Roger's life too and what he did next. We know he went to Ithaca, graduated in 1966. And it looks like he moved to Long Island, but we'll see that shortly. Apollo 17, that was 1973, I believe. So Roger was born in 44. Let's say 74 was 30 years. So Roger was already 29, 30 here if he was filming. So he was 29 years old, and it looks like he had already moved to Long Island and got a job teaching. And he went on a field trip, and that's coming up. So I don't know what he did, what kind of professor he was or teacher, but he maybe taught at some Long Island university. I think it's written on the can. Yeah, Long Island University. Graduate Library School field trips. That's coming up. So Roger maybe worked in the library. Here it is here. So these were two 5-inch cans that were in this batch of film. So it looks like Roger worked for the library or was a professor or a teacher at Long Island University. And he took some students on some field trips. And there were two cans of this film. And he jumped around a lot and just took quick images of what was going on. Didn't keep the camera on any one subject too long. Maybe just wanted to get an overview and document the trip. But he kind of jumps around. It's choppy. Again, nobody was making feature films using these cameras. Most families were just shooting to document their lives. And Roger here was documenting the field trip, and he didn't plan on editing it or anything like that. It's probably just for the archives, just to relive what was going on there during these trips. Where they went, it's hard to say, but there is an indication of some of the places they went. Maybe they went to the Met. They definitely went into New York City on this other reel, because it shows you where they went to. It shows you where they went. So maybe they went to... well, they definitely went to New York Public Library. That's coming up. And again, Roger documenting field trip. Maybe none of these students had ever been to the New York Public Library. Maybe it was a big deal to go there. The Rogers and Hammerstein Archives of Recorded Sound. I think that's the name of what it said there. But that's in New York at the New York Public Library. So Roger's second field trip is coming up now, and it looks like they went to the H.W. Wilson Company, which is a publisher in the Bronx, still in existence. And Roger here, in this field trip, his camera work is much better. He stays on the subjects longer, just smoother filmmaking. He pans good. It's not so choppy. He stays on the subjects again a little longer. And he's doing much better. He did much better here as a documentarian. And so I guess we're seeing the insides of the H.W. Wilson Company and their publishing machines and the workers. And he was documenting this. For the field trip archives, and he did a pretty good job. I love factories. Looks like some of the students at Long Island University again. And I think they published textbooks and other things. Now, I can't imagine doing that for 8 hours a day. Whatever that woman was doing. I've done it. It's not the easiest thing. The rote factory work. This film, it's not very long. I believe it's 100 feet per reel, on the small reels anyway. But even the larger reels, I have a 16 millimeter camera with 400 feet reels, and it goes quick. I was shooting at 24 frames per second, I believe, but these 8 millimeter reels, the 3-inch reels and the 5-inch reels were, I believe, 18 frames per second. So the film moved pretty quickly through the camera. So you didn't really have a lot of time, to spend on any one subject. If you wanted to get a lot of images and document a lot of different things, you had to move pretty quickly. And again, when people projected these 8 millimeter films with no sound, all you heard was the sound of the projector. And of course, any conversation that was going on in the room. I'm sure people were commenting on what they were seeing, so it wasn't totally silent probably. But there was no sound in most of the 8 millimeter films that I find. I haven't found any ones with a soundtrack on them yet. And most of the ones, the cameras that people had, the more affordable cameras, the mass-produced cameras, had no soundtrack. Had no inputs for sound, and the film used, again, had no soundtrack on them. I think with the arrival of Super 8, the soundtrack maybe was added. I know that Super 8, the holes are different, for the sprockets, for the projector and the cameras. They're spaced closer together, and they look a little different than the regular 8. But I have found much footage, many reels with no soundtrack on them that were Super 8 also. So I found Super 8 and regular 8 reels in my travels. I love the clothing styles and the hairstyles of the 70s, especially the early 70s. A lot of the big sideburns that were in vogue at the time. Polyester suits, the bell bottoms. I wonder what these people are doing now. They're still alive. Maybe some are, maybe some aren't. Again, this was in the early 70s, 50 years ago, almost. So 50 years. So if these people were in their 40s, in their 30s even, they'd be up there in their 80s and 90s. So it looks like they went to the Bowker Company also. So they went to the H.W. Wilson Company, the printer, and the Bowker Company. I don't know what Bowker made. Let me see if I can Google that real quick. Let's see, the name of the company is R.R. Bowker. R.R. Bowker. B-O-W-K-E-R. Bowker. Okay, here we go. The R.R. Bowker Company. There it is there. It's an American limited liability company based in New Providence, New Jersey, incorporated in Delaware. They provide bibliographic information on published works to the book trade. So the theme of these trips that Roger took these students on, had to do with publishing and libraries and book indexing and bibliographic information. So Roger maybe worked in the library at Long Island University. Maybe these students were burgeoning librarians, but looks like they were focused on the publishing trade and things like that, textbooks. And that's what Roger did with his life, maybe. Again, I have no other information about Roger other than he graduated from Ithaca. He graduated from Ithaca in '66. And he took these 8mm films in 1973 at Long Island University, or under the auspices of Long Island University, so maybe that's where he worked. And I think he went back in his older age back to Orange County, New York, because I think on his gravestone or in his obituary it mentions where he died. Again, more shots of the New York Public Library. There it is there. I think it's on 5th Avenue. Empire State Building. There's Roger's obituary. Port Jervis, Orange County, New York. That's where he died. There it is, the Amadeo family, Roger Amadeo Checke, and his parents, Francis and Amadeo. Blessed be. Calvin out.